Long before the giants of the Jurassic, Earth was a very different world. A single supercontinent, Pangaea, stretched from pole to pole, its interior scorched by endless heat and broken by catastrophic monsoons. Life here didn't compete against predators. It competed against the planet itself. In this vast, shoreless arena, ancient survivors like Lystrosaurus struggled through a cycle of drought, flood, and famine. Most would fade. But from the edge of extinction, a new kind of creature emerged. Small, fast, astonishingly efficient. The first dinosaurs, forged by heat, sharpened by scarcity, and shaped by the arena, they would rise from obscurity to rule the next 150 million years. If you opened your eyes in the early Triassic, the first thing you'd feel wouldn't be fear or wonder. It would be heat. A thick, breath-stealing heat rising from a world that had just survived its own ending. After the Permian extinction, the greatest biological collapse in Earth's history, silence settled across the land. Not peaceful silence, but the numb, hollow quiet that follows unimaginable loss. Nearly all life was gone. The world felt empty enough to echo. Across a plain of cracked red earth, something moves, slow, heavy, determined. A Lystrosaurus, one of the few creatures that slipped through the extinction, drags its squat body across the dust. It's an odd, pig-like animal with tusks and a beaked mouth. Nothing impressive or fierce. But out here in this wasteland, it is a veteran, a survivor, a reminder that life hasn't given up yet. The creature digs at the ground, scraping clay with its tusks, not searching for roots or insects, but for something far more precious: moisture, a hint of damp soil, a whisper of the water that once shaped entire ecosystems. The Triassic sun bakes the earth so intensely that touch feels like burning a hand on stone. And still, the Lystrosaurus digs. But nothing comes. This is the great thirst. A global drought so profound, it redefines the rules of survival. Rain patterns have collapsed. Rivers have vanished. Even the wind feels dry enough to crack skin. The world is no longer a landscape. It is an oven. The Lystrosaurus continues its slow journey, pausing to rest more often than before. Its ribs show through its dusty skin. Each breath is shallow, like its lungs are tiring of the effort. In the distance, mirages flicker, bright, shimmering illusions that promise water but dissolve into shimmering haze. And yet, this creature keeps moving. Because in a world this harsh, stopping means dying. The great thirst has already erased entire lineages. Amphibians cling to the last puddles. Crocodile-line predators grow thin. Even insects retreat into the soil. The food chain teeters on collapse. But this drought isn't simply killing life, it's reshaping it, squeezing it, demanding new strategies, new bodies, new ideas from evolution. The world is becoming an arena, and every living thing is being tested. As the day fades, shadows stretch across the desert. Temperatures drop sharply. A cruel switch from scorching to chilling within hours. Lystrosaurus finds a crack between rocks and settles in, breathing softly, exhausted. It doesn't know that it is living in a moment of transition, that its era, an era of ancient synapsids and faded lineages, is ending, that the planet is preparing the stage for a new dynasty. A dynasty that will rise not despite the great thirst, but because of it. The Triassic night falls, the silence deepens, and far away, across the burning horizon, the first hints of a new kind of creature are beginning to stir. Rise above the scorched desert of the Triassic, high enough to see continents fade into curvature, and you'll witness something astonishing. Earth, for the first and last time, is one single landmass. No scattered continents. No familiar shapes. Just a colossal, continuous expanse, stretching from one pole to the other. This is Pangaea, the greatest supercontinent the planet will ever assemble. From space, it looks deceptively peaceful. A massive, unified puzzle piece surrounded by a vast world ocean, Panthalassa. But if you drop back down into its interior, the land where the Lystrosaurus struggles, you discover the cruel truth. A continent this enormous comes with consequences no species has prepared for. Moisture from the ocean can't travel far enough inland. The winds lose their water long before they reach the central regions. As a result, millions of square kilometers exist in a state of permanent drought. The farther you walk from the coasts, the more alien the world becomes. Imagine standing in the heart of Pangaea. No sea breeze, no humidity, no shade, unless a boulder happens to cast one at the right hour. You could travel thousands of kilometers in any direction and never encounter a true river or forest. Instead, you'll find a rolling empire of barren plains, salt-crusted valleys, and dry basins carved by monsoons that rarely arrive. This is why Pangaea is more than a continent. It is an arena, a giant experiment set up by the Earth itself, a pressure chamber designed to push life to its limits. Creatures that once relied on predictable rain cycles find themselves abandoned by the sky. Species adapted to lush wetlands or cool forests discover those habitats no longer exist. Entire food webs are forced to restructure. Where once diversity flourished, now emptiness reigns. The survivors must follow new rules. Predators like the crocodile lion Rauisuchians patrol the scorch-marked earth, but waste precious energy searching for prey that has become astonishingly scarce. Their massive bodies, once perfect for short ambush bursts, now struggle in a world where hunting may require days of travel. The old synapsids dig deeper dens to avoid temperature swings. Amphibians, tied hopelessly to shrinking puddles, cling to existence at the edges of dried riverbeds. And yet, even as Pangaea suffocates life, it also seeds opportunity. The harshness acts like a filter. Every drought eliminates the weak. Every flood eliminates the unprepared. Every season rewrites the game board. It isn't the strong that will inherit this land. It's the adaptable. In this world where climate itself chooses winners, evolution begins drifting toward a new direction. One defined not by size or brute force, but by speed, efficiency, and resilience. The Great Thirst was the opening act. Pangaea is the stage, and the creatures best suited for this arena, the ones that will redefine Earth's next 150 million years, are still waiting in the wings. Step deeper into Pangaea's interior, and you soon realize something unsettling. This world barely resembles the Earth we know. It is vast, open, and hollow. An endless expanse of land, so far removed from the ocean that it feels like a different planet entirely. This is a world without shores. Here the horizon wavers in the heat. The land cracks into enormous polygon shapes, like sun-baked pottery laid out for miles. Dust storms simmer on the ground, their spirals twisting silently into the sky. Occasionally life interrupts the emptiness. A herd of weary dicynodonts drags itself across an ancient floodplain, searching for something, anything green. Their tusked faces hang low, their limbs lifting slowly with exhaustion. These creatures once thrived in wet forests and lush valleys. Now they march across a kingdom of dust. Nearby, a lone Rauisuchian prowls a dried river channel. Its armor-plated back and long, powerful legs make it look formidable, but hunger has thinned its sides. Even apex predators struggle here. Prey is rare. The heat is relentless. Every hunt feels like a gamble. But if drought is the first hardship, the monsoon is the second, and far more dramatic. At first, it announces itself gently. A cool wind, a faint smell of ozone, a distant rumble behind the mountains. Then, without warning, the sky collapses. Not opens, collapses. Sheets of water, thick, heavy, almost blinding, hammer the ground. The dry soil can't absorb it fast enough. Within minutes, the floodplain becomes a churning brown sea. Rivers form out of nothing, carving new channels in hours instead of centuries. Creatures scramble for high ground, Dicynodonts tripping over each other. Rauisuchians pushed sideways in the current. For a brief, chaotic moment, life surges. Streams rush. Vegetation races upward in a desperate green explosion. Insects multiply in clouds, but the relief never lasts. Days later, the water is gone again, evaporated into the sky as quickly as it arrived. The land cracks anew, plants wither. Pools shrink into muddy hollows, and then into nothing. Pangaea breathes in violent cycles. Flood, drought, turning the entire interior into a battlefield of weather. Creatures trapped here aren't just fighting predators or hunger. They're fighting the very climate that surrounds them. But there's something else happening, something subtle. Every hardship removes the unfit. Every swing from flood to drought pushes life closer to a new kind of survival strategy. A new kind of body, a new kind of metabolism. The world is slowly, silently preparing for its next dominant lineage, one that isn't tied to water, isn't slowed by heat, and isn't broken by scarcity. In this harsh, unforgiving landscape, evolution is about to make one of its boldest moves. And soon, the first hints of that change will step onto the stage. On Pangaea, survival isn't a contest between species. It's a contest between life and the planet itself. The supercontinent acts like a living machine, one designed to push, crush, and refine everything that dares to exist on its surface. And to do this, it relies on a set of brutal, perfectly calibrated weapons. Weapon 1, heat. Not the kind of warmth that nurtures life, but heat that sterilizes. Heat that strips rivers to their rocky bones. Heat that bakes clay so hard, even a determined Lystrosaurus can't break through. Heat that sends temperatures soaring during the day, only to let them plunge unexpectedly at night. To live here isn't just uncomfortable, it's physiologically punishing. The bodies of ancient creatures, evolved for gentler climates, simply aren't built for these extremes. Weapon 2, drought. The Great Thirst is not a single event. It's a season that never ends. Months, sometimes years, stretch by with barely a drop of rain. Vegetation collapses. Insects vanish. Burrowing animals retreat deeper and deeper, searching for whatever moisture remains. The land becomes quiet, in the way an abandoned building is quiet, full of echoes of things that used to be alive. Weapon 3, flood. As if in mockery of its own droughts, Pangaea unleashes monsoons with almost theatrical violence. Rain doesn't fall. It assaults the ground, turning dust into torrents and dry valleys into raging waterways. The soil liquefies. Burrows collapse. Entire herds are swept away. Animals must be ready for drought and ready for flood, often within the same week. Few species can withstand both. Weapon 4, the boom and bust cycle. This is perhaps the arena's most cunning tool. A brief moment of abundance, plants springing from wet mud, insects buzzing in rapid life cycles, small animals emerging to feed, gives creatures a taste of hope.